Hi everyone, Doug Glenn here from Heat Treat Radio. Before we jump into today's episode of Heat Treat Radio, I just wanted to remind everyone about the Heat Treat Bootcamp, which is coming up on September 23rd to 25th in Pittsburgh. It's a place where you can get 2 years of industry knowledge in less than 2 days. It's a great, very intensive and enjoyable 2 days of training and whatnot. So hopefully you'll be able to make it. Find out more information and register at www.heattreatbootcamp.com. I'd also like to thank the sponsors of the Heat Treat Bootcamp, who are Aerospace Testing and Pyrometry at atp-cal.com and Control Concepts, which is ccIpower.com. Appreciate their sponsorship of the bootcamp. And with that, let's jump into today's Heat Treat Radio episode with Brynna Keelin Kelly-McGrath from Moog. Well, welcome to another episode of Heat Treat Radio. It's a great pleasure to be here today with Brynna Keelin Kelly-McGrath, who is one of our, 2023 40 Under 40 award recipients. So first off, congratulations on that award and welcome to Heat Treat Radio.
Thank you so much. No, that was an honor. Thank you. Thank you again.
Good. That was great. Yeah. So I should mention right off that Brynna is with Moog, and we were just talking about you're just south of Buffalo, New York, somewhere, which is very good. So as you know, this interview is really just to get to know you a little bit more, how you got into metallurgy, heat treating, and all that good stuff. So let's start way back. All right. Give us a little bit about you as a younger person, maybe high school age and moving on up through. And then I do want to ask you how you got kind of involved with heat treating and metallurgy.
Sure. So I grew up in a little town called West Falls, south of Buffalo, New York, and about 20 minutes from Moog. And while I was, going through high school, I took AP chemistry and physics and just fell in love with the topics. So I knew that from a younger age that I was going to wind up being an engineer eventually. I just didn't know what kind. So I was pretty sure that I wanted to be a chemical engineer. So I went and I toured a couple of colleges, and at one of them I met with a material science professor to talk about the differences between chemical and material science engineering. And I was sold. Sounded great. And I was all set and ready to go be a polymers engineer. And so I picked Purdue University and I started going there, and I was absolutely loving it, having the best time. And over the summer, after my freshman year, I got an internship with Moog, which, as I mentioned, was right around the corner from my hometown, which was great. And the internship was primarily metallurgical, just due to the nature of Moog's products. And I absolutely loved it. I was not expecting to like it, and it was just so great. And so I transitioned all of my coursework over to metallurgy, and I kept coming back to Moog for internships, and that was fantastic. So when I started off at Moog, it was right around the time when two of our subject matter experts in heat treatment were transitioning to retirement. So I started, learning as much as I could, as fast as I could about heat treatment. So there was obviously a lot to learn there, but no, it was a great time. And then after working at Moog for a couple of years, I decided that I wanted to go back and pursue my other passion, which was manufacturing engineering. And so right now I'm working on a master's degree after work to combine metallurgy and manufacturing.
Wow.
So,
Okay. Yeah. So you're a classic overachiever. That's pretty good. So you said Purdue, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And so you did your undergrad there. What did you actually end up graduating in? Was it just was it a materials engineering degree or a metallurgy degree?
Yeah, material science and engineering.
Material science and engineering. Okay. And if I remember right, Purdue, that's Indiana, right? Or
yes. Yep.
Okay. All right, good. So you spent the summers or whatever back at Moog and enjoyed that. Yeah, we see a lot of the older generation, right? Retiring and whatnot. So you're kind of filling the brain drain, as we say, which is great. Are there many other young people at Moog?
Yeah. So their internship co-op program has been fantastic in bringing in
Okay.
a lot of students right out of college and getting them hooked on our product line and the sort of manufacturing that we do. And so, we're definitely getting a lot more recent college graduates.
Yeah.
But, with people retiring, those are some awfully big shoes to fill.
Yeah, yeah, right, for sure. For sure. So what exactly does Moog make there at your facility? I mean, they're a large corporation. I know there's usually a lot of automotive, maybe aerospace parts or whatever, but what are you able to say specifically what Moog does there?
Yeah, so we specialize in high precision motion actuation systems.
Okay.
So from a metallurgical side, we're working with a ton of really cool materials. So it's not just steels or aluminums. It is a lot of aerospace applications, defense. So the materials and process engineering group is physically orchestrated on our headquarters campus in the Space and Defense building.
Yeah.
So we do get to see quite a bit of that. But no, from the metallurgical perspective, there is a lot to see and work on.
Yeah. So you mentioned, Brynna, you mentioned that like you were thinking about being a chemical engineer, whatnot, but then you said, you saw the materials. Do you remember what it was about the materials and the metallurgy that attracted you? Anything specific?
So I remember sitting through that, talk with a materials professor at Purdue, and he was
Yeah.
talking about, like what the day to day of a chemical engineer versus materials engineer looks like. And I will not pretend that he wasn't biased because he was a materials professor.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
But no, it just the work that he described
Yeah.
for materials engineering was just so diverse, and there were so many options for different settings and
Yeah.
things that you could end up working on, everything from, being in a steel mill to working in a lab like I do. So,
Yeah.
it's lots of options, lots of cool things. And, the
Yeah.
slogan at Purdue was something along the lines of like, you can't make it without materials. So there really
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
unlimited options.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really neat. That's really neat. So let me ask you this. So I haven't asked you about your family at all. I assume, mom, dad, one or both, or another family. What did they think about your when you told them, "Hey, I'm thinking about being a materials engineer or a metallurgist"? What did they think?
Yeah. So my father is an industrial engineer and
Okay.
my mother is a pharmacometrician. So they're both in the like STEM field already. So I
Okay.
think it was no surprise that I was going to pursue engineering. And then metallurgical engineering specifically, I think, they were happy to encourage me to pursue any of my passions. So my
Yeah.
father knew a couple of materials engineers and thought that, it would work out for me. So
Yeah. Yeah.
they were excited.
So they were very supportive, which is nice. That's great. That's great. So when you did your undergrad at Purdue, were there any specific, I don't know, did you have to work on like a final paper? Were there any specific projects that you worked on there that were of interest to you?
Yeah, so I did some undergraduate research all in the like metallurgy realm. Um, but my like senior project for graduation was along the lines of like characterizing shot for shot peening,
Okay.
and the degradation of shot and the residual stress that it imparts. So it was like a cool mix of like FEA modeling
Yeah.
with like actually characterizing the material. So it was a neat project. And
Yeah. Has any of that carried over? Have you had to do any of that at Moog?
I mean, there's a fair deal of materials characterization,
Yeah.
but we have shot peening, but I'm not super involved with it.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. So at Moog, the specific area, can you describe what your typical day looks like now? What you're working on?
sure, yeah. So my typical day is a good deal of talking with all sorts of types of engineers, and explaining metallurgical concepts. So because we work on a lot of, cool and different materials, that means there's a lot to understand there.
Yeah.
So a good portion of my role is talking with other engineers about, how a heat treatment procedure works or what's metallurgically happening, how to modify a manufacturing sequence, how to, design so that the product's going to work.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. But then I also specifically work in a failure analysis lab. So this could be anything from something's coming off the manufacturing line a little bit wrong, or something failed in the field. And so we've got a beautiful characterization lab full of all the toys that you could think of. We've got two
Okay.
SEMs and a chemical lab. And so there's a good deal of analysis there too.
Yeah. Yeah. So you seem like a person that enjoys your work. Is there anything about any like one specific thing or one specific story or instance of something that happened to you either in school or at work that was just really an enjoyable thing that really kind of made you happy that you were in metallurgy and heat treat?
Oh, goodness. See, that's a good question. Um, I would have to say I've had a couple projects at work, without getting into too much specifics, where we discovered something new metallurgically that we didn't know was happening before. And then like working through that, like, okay, how did we not know it before? What do we know about it now? And what are we going to do to like utilize this new thing that we discovered and make the best of it and take advantage of that. So from a heat treat perspective, sometimes that's, modifying our procedures, modifying our fixturing, kind of creating something new. And it's neat to see the modifications actually happen and come up with like the new parts on the other end. So that's been very exciting and cool to work on interdisciplinary teams like that.
Yeah. So it's kind of, I'm curious about this. There's, you've been out in the work world for how many years?
Like 3.5.
3.5. Okay. So let's say 4 years out. Okay. So you've been out of school 4 years, been working, and the amount that you know about metallurgy and heat treating now is, 4 years worth. Does it kind of amaze you, or that the amount of stuff that we don't know about?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, metallurgy is an old science, but we're still
exactly.
coming up with the tools and technology, and it's great to find out new things. And
Right, right. It's actually that I was just curious about it because a lot of people when they get involved, they say, "Well, I don't want to go into metallurgy and heat treat because it's a mature industry and all that." But I think, your perspective, I was curious if you felt the same way. It's really quite fascinating because there is a lot that happens, like you were saying at Moog, even where you discover things, a lot of stuff that's happening that we really don't know why. So it's the more we can discover about it, the better.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. Okay, so let me ask you this then. You're obviously you come from a smart family. You got parents who are obviously well educated. You as well. What are, if you can think of any, what are some of the metallurgical slash heat treat resources that you currently use to stay current?
Sure. So I think the best resource that's out there is people, the network that
Yeah,
I've been growing.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
that comes from a variety of different sources. I'm part of a few industrial committees. And, it's just a great way to meet people from all ends of the spectrum of metallurgy, from,
Right.
producing the material to, making something out of it, to the people who are going to use it all the way down the line. Um, so finding other metallurgists in those realms, and then also through venues like ASM and our local Buffalo chapter, and meeting people who have more experience than I do and have seen it before. And
Yeah,
if I'm seeing it for the first time, there's definitely someone who spent their whole career on that. So
yeah,
it's really great to
yeah,
tap into those resources. And so
yeah.
that's my number one. And then I guess my second choice would be the ASM handbooks. I've
Yeah.
always got at least two open on my desk.
And
So
yeah, those are great resources. ASM over the years has pumped out some very, very good stuff. So that's great.
absolutely.
That's great. Okay, good. So that's good. Nice to know. Anything else about your work or anything else about your work or your schooling that is of interest or that has excited you or anything of that sort that you'd like to share? If not, that's okay. I just was curious.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, no, I really liked working at Moog because it's a cool application where I can use my metallurgical knowledge along with this new manufacturing knowledge that I'm building up.
Right.
So it really is. That was my favorite intersection in my undergrad degree, and then now I get to actually
Yeah,
try that out in a working sense. So that's been great.
that is good. That's good. And you're doing a master's in industrial engineering? Okay.
Manufacturing engineering,
Manufacturing engineering. Where are you doing that? I mean, you might have said, but I can't remember.
the University of Michigan.
University. So remote, I'm
Yeah.
assuming.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. University of Michigan. Very nice. Okay, that's good. And how far along are you, and how much longer do you have to go there?
I'm hoping to graduate in December. So
Well, there you
coming
go.
closer to the finish line.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, congratulations. That's really good. That's super stuff.
Thanks.
All right, so let's want to move off of metallurgy and heat treat, just find a little bit more about Brynna. All right, so these
Sure.
are what I call the rapid fire round. Okay, just want to ask you a few quick questions. Brace yourself. Here we go. So, but let's start with one. Are you a Mac person or a PC person?
I am a Mac person through and through. I love my Mac.
That is great. Yeah. Now, so do you have a Mac at work? I mean, do you have a Mac computer or laptop? No.
No, I wish, but no.
So this one personally, you use a Mac computer.
Yes, yeah.
Very
Yep,
nice.
for
Very nice.
school and yeah.
Good, good. So see, we have an ongoing debate here. We had a couple people that came into the organization with Macs, and I've always been a PC guy. So we, we have anytime there's a computer problem, we tease each other. Well, that's because you're working on a Mac or you're working on
Sure.
a PC. So that's good. Well, good to know. Good to know. And your phone, are you an Apple phone person? Okay. All right. That's fair.
That an iPad, and I just got a new MacBook Air the other day, so I'm
You're hardcore.
all over it.
You're
Yeah.
hardcore. Okay, very good. All right. So obviously we're a publishing company, right? HeatTree Today. So I'm curious. I like to ask this question. When you consume media, what do you prefer? Hard copy or digital?
I prefer digital. I like to have all of my work life very organized by topic, and it's way easier for me to
Yeah,
organize everything if I have a digital copy of it. So even if it's a print copy, I've been known to scan it and file it the way that I file everything else. So I'm going to
very
go for
good. Very,
digital.
very good. Very good. Okay. Now, what do you value more in work? A flexible work schedule or high pay?
I'm gonna go with flexible work schedule. I've had some people close to me who have the high pay but no flexibility, and
Yeah.
they're the ones more jealous. So I'm gonna go
Yeah.
with I'll
Yeah.
take the flexibility.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Very interesting. That's a great answer. I think that's a good answer. Okay, so here's one. I don't typically ask, but I don't know, just popped to my mind. Would you rather work remote or in an office with people?
In an office, 100%. I am definitely of the variety that gets likes to be around people and
Yeah,
would rather have people to face than
yeah. I kind of
doing it over
assumed that.
Teams.
I kind of assumed that. Never having talked to you before, just I kind of assumed you were that type of person. So, how did you handle all the isolation that came with the recent pandemic?
Yeah, so I was still in college at that time for most of COVID. So Purdue was only remote for like half of one semester.
Hmm.
So it was a reasonably short time, and then the rest of the time we had limited capacity in classrooms and things. But
Yeah.
all throughout that, when I was coming back from my internships and things, our department was classified as essential, so we were coming into the office every day, and
Okay.
that was good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
So
So you didn't necessarily really have a lot of the isolation or as much isolation as you might have had. Right.
yeah, yep,
So that's good. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good enough. I won't keep going down that road. I think that whole time period has been very impactful on our society. I just, just curious how people feel it has affected them. So anyhow, that's
absolutely.
good. Okay. So I know you love working at Moog, but if you had a dream job, what would it be?
um, okay. If
We
I had
won't
a
we
dream
won't
job,
let the people at Moog hear this, okay? We won't let them hear
Yeah. I don't know. I think someday down the line it would be cool to have my own manufacturing business. I don't have a product in mind at the moment. But in my thoughts, it has to do with uh, metallic components and heat treatment because
Yeah.
that's my passion. But that would be great.
Yeah, very interesting. So own your own company and manufacture something, metal.
Yep.
Good for you. You know what? That's where it starts. I mean, you're what, like you said, 3.5 years out. You got time to develop the more specificity over time, but that's good to even know that you're moving in that direction. So that's great. So I assume you don't work all the time. So what do you do? What do you do in your free time? What do you like? What are your passions outside of work?
Sure. Yeah, I'd say the number one time consumer at the moment is that master's degree.
Well, right.
Um,
Yes.
but then, for a pure fun basis, my husband and I are super avid golfers. So
Very
we're,
nice.
all of the very short Buffalo summer, we're trying to be out there on the golf course. And then
Both days,
outside of
both
that,
both
yeah,
days of summer. Good for you.
yeah. And then I'm also a bluegrass fiddler.
Are you
So I
really?
play in a couple bands, and that's pretty fun too. It's almost St. Patrick's Day, so
Yeah. Very nice. Very nice. So you're a musician. That's very good. That's very, I've heard something. I don't know that you've heard it, and this has nothing to do with anything really, except for I've heard that there are some engineering schools who don't ask you if you play an instrument, they ask you what instrument you play. because the
huh?
because the correlation somehow or other, I don't know what it is, the correlation between music and engineering, maybe it's the methodicalness, the orderliness, all that stuff is very much there's a very strong correlation there. So,
Neat. Yeah, I didn't know that.
but
Huh?
if you're playing bluegrass fiddle, I assume you play some by ear. I mean, I assume you've got some sort of natural talent there. Is that safe to
Yeah.
say?
Yeah. No, I started that at a decently young age, and
Yeah.
now my husband and I are learning piano as well. So it's been fun.
Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. What did your husband do by chance? Just curious.
Yeah, he's a software engineer.
He is. Okay. Two engineers in one house. That's got to be pretty interesting dinner time talk. I'll tell you what. Okay. Well, that's really good. Congratulations on that. That's wonderful playing the fiddle. I think that's good.
Thanks.
Free time. Okay. Last question for you. Just kind of curious. I give people an option here. You can answer any one of these three. Just curious. What would be your favorite app, movie, or magazine? And you don't have to give me one of each. Just, you can pick an app, a movie, or a magazine. Just curious.
Okay. The first thing that came to my mind when you asked that question was Audible. At the moment, I'm, hooked on reading a lot or listening to a lot of books. I
Listening.
consider it
Yeah,
reading.
yeah,
um, just in the, little bits of downtime here and there, grocery shopping and driving in the car and things like that. It's nice to spend that time a little bit
yeah,
more productively. So
yeah, yeah. I'm with you. I think that's great. And of course, I assume maybe you can even do some of your school reading, maybe on Audible or no?
I haven't tried that yet,
Okay.
honestly.
Okay. Well, sometimes people learn better by, actually reading, but other people learn better by listening. So that's fine. So I guess I do have one of the quick questions I didn't write down here, but if you were to encourage young people, put yourself back in your high school days, right? Uh, if you were to encourage them to really look into metallurgy, materials, whatnot, what would you tell them? I mean, what would be in your encouragement to them?
Yeah, I think the most impactful thing for me at that age was like actually getting to see what they do. And so at Moog, I act as a tour guide for a lot of high school students, and I try to, show them as close as possible what we do and what a day looks like. Because, like, I mean, it's great to think about the theory, but at the end of the day, when you graduate with that degree, you got to go work.
Yeah.
And so, seeing what a working day at different companies is like, I encourage high school students to get out there and see as many
Yeah.
jobs as possible,
Yeah.
and shadow people. And I guess that would be my advice.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Well, Brynna, thanks so much. Congratulations again on being a 40 under 40 this last year. And thanks for taking some time to chat with us.
Thank you so much.
So thanks everyone for listening to this episode with Brynna. What an enjoyable person she is to listen to. If you don't mind, go and give Heat Treat Radio a 5-star review or a like on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, or iHeart, or anywhere where you listen to your episodes. You can also find these episodes on heattreattoday.com/radio. So let us know if you want to hear any specific topics on the podcast as well, or if you'd like to sponsor a future episode. You can do that by emailing me at doug@heattreattoday.com. Again, we'd like to thank the sponsors of upcoming Heat Treat Bootcamp. And that's, again, aerospace testing and pyrometry at atp-cal.com and Control Concepts Inc. at ccipower.com. And remember, Heat Treat Bootcamp is this year, September 23 to 25 in Pittsburgh. And you can register at www.heattreatbootcamp.com. This and every other episode of Heat Treat Radio is the sole property of Heat Treat Today and may not be reproduced in part or in whole without advance written permission from Heat Treat Today. I'm Doug Glenn. Thanks for listening.